Welcome to the Intercut Podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he does dumb things and the people he loves most pay the price. It's Arturo Zurita.
What a filler Marvel line going right there. Hey guys, how you guys doing? Welcome back to the Intercut Podcast. Myself, Art, my boy Zach, you know us, but coming all the way over Ethiopia's Wi-Fi, past Ethiopia, all the way in Australia, down under, is our boy Bailey from Breaking Banter. Say hi, dude.
Hey guys, how we doing?
That
thank
energy.
you for joining us,
Yeah.
Bailey.
Wait, was the energy good or was it down? I can't tell what people classify as
I
like
need you to
normal
come
energy.
in with that energy right there. No, it's cool.
Well, we're
It's good to
coming
have
in
you
with
on.
that AM energy, and he's bringing in the PM vibe.
Oh, I
That's
can
right.
yeah, you
Time
got.
Time zones.
Yeah, that's it.
Crazy.
That's it. That's it. We're dealing with 12 hours difference right now, but that's cool. That's cool. It's midday for me.
Everyone should just be in American time zone.
I'm trying to live in American time zones currently, so that's fine. That's fine. This is normal.
Yeah, it's cool to have you on, dude. If you don't know, he's from Breaking Banter. It's a duo slash now transitioning into this whole. He's got a whole nother video series that's gonna start off. He told me a bit about it. Sounds really exciting. It's got a whole thing that he's coming up with, so it's gonna be pretty dope. Definitely stay tuned for that. But here at the podcast, we obviously talk about a variety of things, specifically something that we got for topic of the week that's gonna be pretty dope.
Yeah, we're in a little bit, we're going to get into some fan backlash and movie troll controversy, as well as the latest news surrounding Idris Elba and Scarlett Johansson getting cast in some new movies. But first, we start the way we start every week here on the Intercut Podcast with what we've been watching. Art, get us started. What have you been watching?
Did you watch Ant-Man?
No, I haven't seen it.
Ooh.
I haven't seen The Wasp.
Why would I even be surprised that you did? I'd be like, why?
I did my fill of summer entertainment.
Bailey, you saw it though, right?
Yeah, man, I saw it like a week early. Hey, yeah. Yeah, oh, sorry. I shouldn't have added that in. Yeah, no, I saw it before.
I saw it a week early in Australian time.
Yeah, that's it. So
you could add a couple hours. You and I could talk about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. I've been calling it like filler Marvel, which
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
no,
Like,
I think that's what most people seem to be classifying it as currently, which it kind of is, because it's filling the time between Avengers, like Infinity War, and then whatever the fourth Avengers is. So it is filling the gap. I thought it was, like, it's decent, man. Like, I have a hard time classifying Marvel movies because no matter how much, like, I have to quantify them by excitement of, like, I watch them and I'm excited for like 2 days and then it just fades no matter how much I love the movie. Like even Black Panther, like massive Ryan Coogler fan, buzzing off the movie, saw it twice in 2 days and then it just declined for me, like disappeared. It's almost as if the movie doesn't exist since then. Marvel movies are hard to quantify for me because of their staying power. It's such like an in-the-moment entertainment thing. And I got that from Ant-Man. Like while I was in the Ant-Man and the Wasp, I was like, hey, this is good fun. It's energetic.
while you're watching it, right?
It's in third act mode like the entire time. There was an interesting thing there where it was like there's no bad guys. It's just all people that want stuff, just constantly trading their wants, crossing over, and all being aligned around the same thing, which is interesting. I haven't seen Marvel do anything quite like that. As soon as the movie was over, though, like I had to review it straight after, and I was like, should have taken notes. I don't remember.
I think that's a good point. I think like, because I had the same thing you do, like Civil War, that when I'm watching a trailer or a bit for it, I go, wow, this is really good. Infinity War, stuff like that. But I think the difference is that when we watch other stuff that's like, I don't know, has drama or something, the story sticks with you. And I think the thing with Marvel is that they're not bad movies just because you forget them. I think the excitement comes from when you're sitting there and visually watching it.
That's it, because I don't want to discredit the movies, because some of them have had, like, for me, Homecoming had staying power. I'm still talking about Iron Man 1. 10 years later now. I still talk about Iron Man 1 all the time. That movie did it for me.
He's in a date. So tell me more about yourself. Iron Man 1.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like. Iron Man 1 is still the best Marvel movie. Come on. Like, but yeah, I don't know. There's a weird thing where it's also, for me, it's just the filmmaking. I've been going on like a Harry Potter binge recently, for a video I may or may not be working on, and actually seeing directors take over and drastically have an impact on the style of movies. Whereas Marvel, even they managed to neutralize Ryan Coogler, which I kind of was in denial about for a while. I was in denial about and then you watch Creed back, or you watch Fruitvale Station, you're like, Ryan Coogler is there in ideas and in themes, but where did he go as a, like, as a story, like the kind of storytelling. Like
I can kind of see that. Yeah,
looks
There's
completely
a bit
different.
of a uniformity to the way that these movies all feel, which, you know, lends some kind of conformity and cohesion to the whole franchise.
I do think that there's sometimes I can't remember. Do you like Thor Ragnarok or not? I can't remember what side you were on that. Were you right or wrong?
I liked the movie while watching it, and
I think he's wrong. See,
no, hang on. It paints
Taika.
in broad strokes, and it nails all of those big ideas. But on a smaller level, as the achievements between the big ideas, I think it's really, really a mess. I think it gets the big ideas. It did a lot to correct Thor, and I enjoy watching it. But I think there's just so much in the direction where it's like, this guy was so under-prepped for this kind of movie. He nails the stuff he was brought in to nail, but not the stuff. I know that's really controversial. No, I know that's so controversial. I know that's like, I really love Taika. I think he's fantastic, and there's a lot of really great stuff in that movie. But just stuff where it's like Thor lost his eye and you didn't even see it. Like wasn't even a moment. He was like the anti-Zack Snyder. That's the way I put it. So Zack Snyder's moment. Taika was like, it's just one thing where stuff's happening. And yeah, it's a really deep film, man. Like our review that's the longest review I think we've ever done. Because there was so much, it's just a really tight spiral. Well, we brought up Thor for a reason. Sorry, I don't want to keep blasting on Thor because I enjoy that movie. You want to hit me with what you were going to say about it there.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I think, like, when it comes to Thor Ragnarok and the Guardians movies, I think those are the points where Marvel does kind of let the director do their thing. I mean, I always go back to Guardians. They have a jizz joke. They have, like, a couple of jizz jokes in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think
I think that's definitely more so a case in the script.
Yeah.
You know, you can definitely hear it in some of the writing, but visually there is
visually,
especially with the CGI.
Yeah. The CGI and the way that the colors are done and such, but I think
it's actually the camera direction. The camera direction is what it is for me. It's all you can see, and I don't know. There was a behind the scenes photo that came out of Ragnarok where I kind of knew what I was in for straight away. Where there was like 30 cameras set up in one scene, and you could tell I was instantly like, "There's not going to be any movement. There's not going to be any reframing, readjusting, composition, focus. It's all going to be singles." And this is what Ant-Man fell into in the dialogue scenes. It was all singles, and it was just cut. And while I've watched Prisoner of Azkaban like 30 times or something in the last I just watched it non-stop for this video I'm working on. I'm like, you can see in that movie the director went in and had all these ideas. This is how we're going to tell this story. Everyone has to hit their marks. I just don't see these movies as being directed in a lot of scenes. Because you have the previs team doing the action half the time. You have these dialogue scenes. I'm like, what's the director for in half of the Marvel movies? I will say Infinity War really lifted their bar for that. But Ant-Man, it was the same kind of thing. I was like, what was Peyton Reed actually there doing?
Well, I don't have any. What else has Peyton Reed done?
He did a rom-com before. And he was doing TV and a rom-com.
Nothing against the boy. But
no.
I definitely think Ant-Man feels like an SNL sketch. I think it feels like a sitcom type of thing, and that's where I see it as kind of being the filler. It's not a bad thing, but it's one of those things, and I think you felt more of that with Thor, where Thor Ragnarok kind of touched on it, but then when the Russo brothers had the Thor from Ragnarok,
they nailed it. They brought it right back to where they needed it to, yeah.
I feel the same thing with the Russos when they took Ant-Man. Ant-Man in Civil War was one of my favorite characters in Civil War. So I can't wait to see him in Avengers 4 to see, Ant-Man to me was okay. Then I see him in Civil War, I was like, I gotta go watch that movie again? Ant-Man and the Wasp, okay. And then I'm gonna see Avengers 4 and I'm gonna be like, oh, so this is how it's done. So I feel like, again, it's just that stepping stone again. It's almost like the whole movie leading up to the after credit scene was just like, taking the time.
Don't forget Ant-Man exists.
Yeah, we know what you guys came here for. It's for this little thing right here, this little snap. But yeah.
Can I throw out just a hypothetical though? You know, we're in this Infinity War phase,
Saga,
right? Where there's this huge thing going on. Is there a case to be made that Ant-Man, more than just filler, is like, all right, let's take a breath? Because not everything can be cataclysmic. You can't, if you just keep raising the bar and raising the bar and raising the bar, you're gonna, run out of places to go. You kind of need maybe something with a little less stakes, maybe something Ant-Man sized in between.
No,
Yes, I'm gonna say yes. Yeah, I'm gonna say yes.
No, I agree with you. I think that's mainly the point that they were going for, is that they just wanted like a little bit of a breather room because they need something to fill up the calendar year date until what comes first? Is it Captain Marvel
Captain
or
Marvel.
Avenger?
Captain Marvel, yeah.
Okay. What month is she coming out in?
March 23rd, I think, is the date. They finished filming today. So
yeah, I saw it. And then
yeah.
Avengers would be what?
May, yeah.
The main thing with them is Marvel movies feel like a roller coaster. And you don't think about a roller coaster once you're off of it. You think about it for a little bit, but the excitement comes when you're on the roller coaster.
You just want to get on the next ride, but pretty much,
exactly.
Yeah.
Or rewrite that thing again. So that's what Marvel is to me, a roller coaster. And I appreciate the art of roller coasters.
No, that's a pretty much perfect analogy, I'd say. That's pretty spot on. That's it.
Anything you've been watching, Bailey? Besides that, man?
No, we've got a film festival on here right now that I've been a part of, kind of semi, promoting and putting together. And I finally got to see You Were Never Really Here after waiting, because that was like one of my most anticipated for 2017. We did the list and then it got the whole way through 2017. And I was like, it's not out, because Australia gets movies all over the place. We got a lot of movies
we didn't get in the US until 2018 either.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we've only just got it now, and there's 4 showings in my state, which is, I think, almost the size of, like, half of the US or something. I live in Western Australia, which is huge, but, like, yeah, population's pretty small. But, yeah, like, we've got 4 showings of it, and then it's gone. So, anyway, we've finally got it. I've finally been able to see it. And it was one of those things where, like, there's certain movies where I see the reviews, I know the filmmaker, I'm so confident in it that I feel like I would be wrong if I walked out of it and said it was bad or I didn't like it. Like, it's one of those things where I'd go back and be like, I'm going to watch it again and again. Certain movies, like The Revenant was like my most anticipated of 2015 or something, whichever year that came out. And like, as I was sitting in the theater, within the first 10 seconds, I was like, this is going to be my favorite movie this year. And it didn't budge. Whereas like, and that's pretty much the same thing that's happened with You Were Never Really Here. It was just, because Lynn Ramsey, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with any of her other stuff. We need to talk about Kevin's, one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
A must-see movie. I think everyone in the world needs to see that movie. But yeah, You Were Never Really Here literally started, and within about 30 seconds, I was like, pretty sure this is going to be in my top 5 by the end of the year.
It was the logos. The logos were still coming up. We haven't even seen her name yet.
It was pretty much, it was just, it was actually sound started over the credits. And for me, if I hear like a good score before I see an image, I kind of know instantly that the movie's most likely going to be pretty good. Like
it kind of puts you in a certain place.
And if if the music is correct, like again, like at the world premiere of like Shape of Water, no one in the world has seen it yet. We're sitting there and I'm like, yeah, it starts like 10 seconds in. I was like, yeah, this is going to deliver.
Those music's playing. And
certain soundtracks. And this here which is done by Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, who was just nominated for Phantom Thread. Music started straight away, and I was like, I know I'm in for this. So for you guys who don't know, out there who don't know what the movie's about, it's like Taxi Driver, but with Joaquin Phoenix, and it's more messed up, I guess. That's it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
It. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I haven't.
Okay, I know. Well, I don't like to spoil things anyway. Usually on my own channel, I don't even like to give the synopsis of things. I like people to just force them into it. Just like, I said it's good, go and see it.
Watch it. Blink.
But honestly, like, because I hadn't seen anything for it. So it was my most anticipated movie, and I hadn't seen anything for it. I just knew roughly what it was about, who was making it. And honestly, man, like, just the peak of art. Like, I know that probably sounds pretentious as hell, but like, the entire movie was just like bliss. It was like the best, like, because it's kind of like Taken in a way, you know what I mean? I
heard a lot of people comparing it to Drive.
Yeah, it's in that. Well, I guess Drive. For the point I'm making here, it's like, so it falls into that same type of thing as like, is it Man on Fire and like Taken and those type of movies where someone's been like kidnapped and then but they're like, this is like the anti version of that, where all the action beats are neutralized and it's all about the moments in between. So all the hectic music will be happening over someone just driving, as opposed to it'll be like a chase scene, no music, then a scene of them just going from A to B, music that's super intense. Like, it was a weird thing where it was like the anti kind of action
one
version
of those movies.
And I just thought it was so interesting from that, like, not even from a subversion perspective, because The Last Jedi's changed the way I talk about subversion. Subversion on its own isn't a good thing necessarily. It's more like how it's subverting things. But here it really felt like, let's take what you know and flip it, I guess, about these types of movies. So we're getting all hyped up for these like action scenes. You're like always about to, go and butcher someone, you're getting keen on that action, and then it doesn't happen. You have this introspective moment where you're like, I wanted to see that violence. What does that say about me? I don't know if I'm looking too far into the movie, man, but like it just hit me on like that kind of level where I went from like analyzing the way I'm watching it, and then it turned back onto myself. So I just had a real
and then
kind
you're
of
asking questions. Yeah,
I guess
it's definitely a very subliminal movie.
Yeah, man, I really got into it. Hey, it was pretty euphoric. That was it. I think that's the only thing I've seen aside from rewatching Prisoner of Azkaban over and over again. But nothing new. I don't think. I've had a pretty quiet couple of weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Music.
For me, one of the things that I've been watching, the romantic comedy Set It Up popped up on Netflix, I think last week. It's
What'd you think of this? Because I had so many people that watch Set It Up, do an LME on Set It Up, and I'm like, and I watch it.
I'm surprised that this seemed to really make a dent, because it for the most part seems like a pretty typical romantic comedy,
right?
But I think there's something kind of delightful in the performances. I think they've got a really charismatic cast. The quick rundown of the plot is it's two assistants to high-profile people decide to help set up their bosses, kind of unbeknownst to their bosses. The assistants are played by Zoe Deutch and Glenn Powell. The bosses are Lucy Liu and Taye Diggs. So it's four charismatic actors playing charismatic parts. It has a kind of interesting twist in terms of the ways that romantic comedies go. It's not anything that's unexpected, and you kind of feel the beats coming as soon as the scenes start. But it's kind of a delightful way to spend a weekend afternoon, especially on Netflix. I think we've had a lack of big romantic comedies in recent years. It seems like it's been kind of like a decade since we've really had a movie like Hitch that kind of dominated the box office. You and I liked Sleeping with Other People, but that was kind of a minor movie, and there's a few others that pop up, but this is in the vein of more of a traditional romantic comedy. It's very delightful. I didn't find it too groan-worthy, so if that sounds appealing to you, I would check that one out on Netflix. It's a great Zoe Deutch performance. I really like her in...
So here's the thing. You're a big Zoe Deutch fan, or Dutch, or however you say her name.
I don't know.
It's a really difficult name, hey?
Yeah, I know her as the girl from Sweet Life on Deck. However, my biggest thing, and I've had this debate between the two of them, Haley Lou Richardson from Columbus and Support the Girls this year, and Edge of 17, or Zoe Deutch.
Do we have to choose?
Bro, I've already chosen.
I've already chosen as well. Lou Richardson. And I haven't even seen Columbus. I haven't even seen Columbus or the other one. I've seen it. What's it? Yeah, Edge of 17. And she was in something else that I saw. Isn't she in?
Fantastic.
She's in. Is she in Split? I feel like she's in Split.
Yeah, boy, she in Split. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's in Split. Yeah. So I'm gonna go.
I've noticed that when it comes to, like, I see their movies pop up, and I always have to do a second glance. I was like, all right, is this the one or is it Zoe? And it's usually Zoe, but hey, Lou Richardson's got a lot of movies that are coming out, so yeah, I'm excited for that.
Give Zoe her time. She's been in some really cool stuff. Wasn't she in Mad Max Fury Road?
Who? No. Which one? Neither of them, but I don't know. I want to know which one you meant.
I'd be watching Mad Max Fury Road right now if that was the case. She was in the Before I Die, whatever that one was.
And she was in Everybody Loves Some. Everybody Wants Some. Everybody Wants Some as well.
Yeah, she was in that.
Yeah, she was really good in that. That's probably the best thing I've seen her do, to be honest.
Yeah.
She was only in it for like 2-3 scenes, but she delivered.
She was like Haley Lou Richardson in that one, yeah.
So we'll see where that ends up going. Art, have you watched any of season 2 of Glow on Netflix yet?
Buddy, you want to talk about it? Let's go, because that's my recommendation for the week. Go ahead.
All right. Well, we can hold off a little bit, but it's still excellent.
It's better.
It's showing you more of the cast. It's getting deeper into all these different people. I love the structure of a lot of these episodes. It's getting deeper. I think very much the first season was like introducing you to the concept, to the world, to these people, and especially they do this thing where they have these kind of offensive, stereotypical characters that are basically just mentioned in the first season, and they kind of deeply analyze a few of them in the second season.
You're talking about the episode with the sun.
Cool. Yes,
bro. I haven't been to episode 8 yet. I don't know, Bailey, if you've seen Glow, but that's
I don't know if it's ever the type of thing I'll get around to, but it's something that like it has been on my radar because reviews have been really good.
I think it's the kind of thing that if you just watch 1 or 2 episodes,
you're gonna be
you'll
like,
post
Man,
it.
I get a
It's
chance to watch
really-
like 1 episode of TV like every 2 weeks.
Well, that's the thing with me. I always talk about that, right? My biggest thing is always like TV. I'm always super behind on just because I'm always worried about the filler and just the length of it. But bro, there's that episode in and I haven't gotten to episode 8, which a lot of people.
Yeah,
have been
that's
saying
when I
is,
keep
like,
seeing
really
raved about.
good.
Hey,
Yeah, exactly. Episode 8. I'm not there yet, but there was that episode. With what's her? Why am I blinking on her name from Community? Why am I blinking on her name?
Alison Brie?
Alison Brie. I was thinking Brie. I was going in reverse. I was thinking Captain Marvel. Alison Brie's episode in the hotel room. I was like, okay. But the episode that stuck and resonated with me the most is that one about the welfare queen with her son.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't want to spoil or anything, but just the ending on how the son is disappointed but doesn't judge her. That like stuck with me so like. It was a beautiful episode. It seems like it's going to be an embarrassing, tragic episode, and it becomes this beautiful, just...
It was really sweet.
Man, this is a good show.
Yeah. It's a good show, and it gives you a really great ensemble vibe. Like, there's not a lot of shows on TV right now where you feel like you're hanging out with with a community, with people. No pun intended, I guess, with Alison Brie, but...
We'll take it.
It's a really fun show. If you like early Orange is the New Black, this is coming from a couple Orange is the New Black writers, so it's got similar vibes, but it's that half-hour comedy with some drama in there, really easy to watch. Mark Maron is really fun in it. I would highly, highly recommend second season of Glow. And then I can't let this segment go by without just mentioning the World Cup is awesome, and that's the best entertainment I've got this month.
Sport.
I don't know. I've been caught up with the world. Sport's good. Ball's great.
Yeah.
Sports ball. All right, so that's about it for what we've been watching. Let us know what you've been watching in the comments down below. We're going to get into the yay or nays, talking about the latest happenings in the entertainment industry, starting with the casting news around Scarlett Johansson that has caused a bit of controversy and many op-ed pieces. Scarlett Johansson has been cast in a new movie called Rub and Tug, in which she's set to depict a...
That's the name of the movie?
That's the title, yeah. Kids are going to love that one. Yeah.
So it's set to be... She's set to play a trans man, and this is going to be directed by Rupert Sanders. A lot of people are noting that Rupert Sanders is also the person who directed Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell, which most famously is known for its whitewashing controversy. This time, the controversy is surrounded about the idea of a cisgendered actress playing a trans character, and in response to the controversy, Scarlett Johansson's people put out the statement, "Tell them they can be directed to Jeffrey Tambor, Jared Leto, and Felicity Huffman's reps for comment."
Miss me with that.
Art, yay or nay, is this an appropriate way to respond to this controversy?
Look, I'm gonna say nay, right? But I can look at it both ways. One, regardless of how I feel about it, I personally think that getting a mainstream movie about any subject that isn't in the mainstream, that's the best way to go about it, in my opinion. I'll cover that a bit more,
Right.
but I can still look at it and be like, Johansson, I'm with you. Are you with you? This is not how you respond to something like that. I also agree with that if you do not like the movie, it doesn't matter what it's about, right? Like, as Coco comes out, and it's a terrible movie, I don't care if Pixar covered Mexico. That movie's trash. So the same thing being here, where it's such a sensitive subject for this specific demographic, that when you got someone like Rupert, whatever his name is, right? We saw a Ghost in the Shell, right? That was the same one where I was like, well, you know, I get it. She's not Asian, but she looks like the character. Then I watched the movie and I go, I ain't defending you anymore. When we remember the plot twist of that movie, and I'm gonna spoil it because if you don't care for Ghost in the Shell, you don't care for Ghost in the Shell. She was actually an Asian character who was kidnapped and turned into a white woman.
Yeah.
Then I go back and I look at their PR statements, and it was like, how about you watch the movie? That was the dumbest thing. That's like you know what?
That's like the
Tekashi
worst
was
explanation for it. That made it worse.
Right?
As soon as I
That
saw
made
that, I
it
was like,
worse.
oh
I was like,
god.
when
And
Tekashi was on the Breakfast Club, and what's his name said, "Are you a sexual offender?" And he's like, "Google it, Google it." But if I do, that's not good for you. And it was something like that. So when it comes to a scenario like this, I'm just like, the way that they're approaching it is the dumbest thing in the world, because you have to listen. Even if the demographic that's may not be they may be a little uptight or however you want to see it, it's still, you're making this movie for this specific demographic. You get what I mean? Like, you cannot make a gay movie and not have gay counselors on there. A minority movie and not have African Americans, Latinos, whatever it is. That said, the idea that Scarlett Johansson cannot play a trans character, in my opinion, and you can definitely disagree with me, it's like when you have a bunch of movies that they need a high-profile name, and I understand that. You know, why not get a real trans person? And you most definitely can. But some of y'all didn't see Fantastic Woman. Some of y'all didn't see Lawrence anyways. If you don't even know the names of those movies, I cannot take you seriously when you're talking about that. I also love clicking on some of these profiles and seeing that they love Brokeback Mountain. Who was cast in Brokeback Mountain?
Straight actors?
Straight dudes. So my thing with that is that a movie like Brokeback Mountain opened up the doorways, though. You get what I mean? That was nominated for an Oscar. It had 2 prolific actors, and it was pushing that forward. Mind you, they were a bit more respectable than when you have Scarlett Johansson, who I want to say, and I've always been big on this, don't put someone's intent in their mouth. You know what I mean? I don't think Scarlett's doing this just because she wants to bank off of, you know, the trans community. I think she wants to do good, but then she says things like this, and it's like, homie, girl, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? So I think that high-profile movies with high-profile actors can open up the doorways, and then you get those people. You get what I mean? Like, Love, Simon just came out this year.
Right.
A bunch of the actors in there are, you know, they're part of the LGBT community. But from what I know, Simon himself wasn't. I don't think that changes the aspect of that movie.
And not that being gay is perfectly equivalent to being trans, but there are some
Representation.
similarities in the
Representation.
depictions of
That's what I'm
representation and the depictions of minorities. Bailey, do you have any thoughts on the rub and tug casting news?
Terrible title.
There's a lot of issues I have with this
got your
movie
interest.
Already, mainly starting with the title and then starting with the director, because that already tells me, like, is this really something that we should be worrying about too much, because the movie's probably not going to be very good. He does not have a good track record.
That's the whole other thing.
And that's the starting point for me. But it was interesting because I saw a response to, I can't remember at what point I saw this news pop up, but I saw the response from Johansson and her team, and initially I was like, "Yeah, girl, you tell them." And then I thought about it for a second and went, "Oh, hang on." I was like, "Ooh." So it's like a weird thing for me because I don't think the response is the best way to handle it at all. Like, hey, don't look at me, look at someone else. I think there's like a kind of something's inherently wrong with that approach to it. Saying like, hey, that's not a big issue. This is this other issue. Go and pay attention to that instead. Even though, drawing attention to the issue is still a good thing. I think this is a really interesting issue because it winds really tight. I think like there's a lot of things kind of in it, and I think with the representation thing, I think that's a really slippery slope because I want to see, I work as a director and I work with, a lot of actors and I work with a really broad spectrum of actors, with all the different, different race, different gender, different,
backgrounds.
Different backgrounds. And you want to see people being, represented. I haven't worked with anyone that's trans. And I think that, it would be good to get trans actors playing trans characters. I think that's a good idea. Right. But I also don't think we should because there's an element like that we need to understand of acting being acting as well. And I think if we start having everyone fit into I think it ties into that whole thing that we're having now with that, with the thing of movies, like if it depicts something, it endorses it. Which is something that I'm starting to see a lot of nowadays. I saw something pop up on Twitter. The Mad Men one.
You did see that, yeah.
I haven't even seen Mad Men yet. I've seen a bit of it. Kill me, I really need to watch that show. Too many shows to watch. I've got the box set. Haven't got to it yet.
For reference, there was a big film Twitter thing where a critic, I believe, who writes for Vulture, was basically criticizing Mad Men because its central character is a sexist misogynist who drinks a lot of alcohol, and essentially the whole controversy was around this idea of whether or not depicting this stuff is endorsing this, which of course Mad Men wasn't endorsing Don Draper's behavior.
But it was that idea that even talking about or having fun with it, enjoying it, makes you just as bad. It's things that we've heard about with Fight Club.
Wolf of
American
Wall Street as
Psycho,
well. Yeah,
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Wall Street's a good example.
And to a degree, Breaking Bad. You know, some individuals even
Yeah.
make their channels based around that name. And you know what? It's just you can't be endorsing drug people with in New Mexico who are starting like empires. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's a separation that I feel sometimes people can't make.
Yeah, and
But
so
it's not endorsing it.
And so with that, I think there's an interesting thing. It's like, do we get to the point where we have someone who's playing, you know, like we're doing season 4 of Mindhunter, and we need someone who's
Is an actual
a
psychopath?
And no, like this is a really broad. I don't want to like lessen the issue there and move it too far
Yeah.
away in that way. I really don't want to undermine the issue here that's faced by a community that wants to see themselves represented. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all of this stuff.
Sorry.
I've seen stuff just snowball like this over like the years that I've been doing this in this film community, with issues that were never an issue and now an issue, and it's made other smaller things because that issue is now that's the way things are. Things have changed that way. Now issues that were small 5 years ago are now the big issues, and it keeps going and going and going like that. So I'm just concerned with the fact that we will start having a problem with you know, stuff down the track where it needs to be the actor. We're removing a lot of the acting part of it. And I know, like, I don't want to say anything, like, I don't want to say any of this stuff kind of, like, out of line, because I don't want to disrespect, you know, the community that is feeling this struggle.
I think
but
some
yeah.
of the issue comes down to, you know, like you were saying, no, not even authenticity, which is a part of it, but also opportunity. And you look at one thing that strikes me about the statement that's so kind of it works against its own point is, can you even name 4 trans actors? Like, if you're this is an opportunity that's being taken away from potentially like a Laverne Cox, or I think her name was Daniela Vega from
Daniela
Fantastic
Vega,
Woman.
Yeah.
But you're talking about all these cisgendered actors who've had this opportunity. Now, when we're talking about a movie like Transamerica, which Felicity Huffman got nominated for an Oscar for over a decade ago, that was a more novel concept to be brought into the mainstream. We didn't really see trans stories depicted in this way. But now we're living in an era of A Fantastic Woman and Transparent with Jeffrey Tambor, which has faced its own controversy.
Yeah.
And
Well, Tambor has himself, yeah.
yeah, but one of the ways that Transparent has mitigated its controversy over the use of transgender plot lines is by casting a lot of transgender actors around the Jeffrey Tambor character.
Yeah.
So, you know, while I agree with Bailey's point about the whole idea of art being representative and there being a power in being able to transform and represent, like, you know, Roger Ebert called movies an empathy machine, and I think that if we fail to recognize the ability of movies to help us empathize with people who we aren't or we don't necessarily see similarities to, then we're denying a lot of what makes movies great. But at the same time, we've had these opportunities for cisgendered actors to play trans characters, and nothing about this director-actress pairing makes me think that we're going to get a very nuanced, interesting portrayal here.
Definitely.
If we lived in a world with more equal opportunity, I'd be down to see Scarlett Johansson's trans movie, but without
The quality
these
isn't
opportunities.
there.
Exactly.
Well, can I just say with that as well, I think there's definitely a quality of there being like a novelty thing to it for actors. I don't know how many of you guys know it, but like you say to an actor, hey, you want to play a trans role, and they go like head over heels for that role because there's a novelty to that type of thing. There's a reason Jared Leto jumped on that role straight away. You look at this
Eddie Redmayne Oscars, and Jared Leto, like you said,
look at
Oscars.
the stuff that Jared Leto goes for.
It's
You can
a
imagine
little-
they handed him Dallas Buyers Club, and he was like, "Oh, I'm all over this straight away," because there's that
They're
transformative
using
thing, and
trans
that
as a
then puts
costume.
you into the Oscars, you know, the awards season.
It's a little
category.
like playing gay 10 to 20 years ago.
Yes.
You know, Tom Hanks is gay in Philadelphia. Wow.
Yeah, and it's because there's almost like a novelty thing to the casting as well, which I do think we have to be conscious of. But yeah, it's just a really kind of tricky issue. I think overall, like if I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say nay on that one. I think, you know, just in general, I do think, you know, there's actors out there that are becoming more present that are, you know, transgender, and I think that they probably it's their time to shine, I guess.
That's how I would end it. If you want to support these movies, go watch Tangerine. Go watch
Yes.
Fantastic
Fantastic Woman.
Woman, Lawrence Anyways, and there's another one at the tip of my tongue, but I
Tomboy.
can't- I haven't seen Tomboy. But those three for a fact, though, because I believe you can get all of them on Netflix. If not Netflix, VOD for sure. So watch those three. That's just my biggest thing. Go support those movies that are already out there.
And if you're demanding the change going forward, make sure you go out and see the movies when that change is delivered.
Yeah. Yep.
If you do want to make a statement, don't see this new movie. And chances are you're going to end up not seeing it because it won't be that great. But make a statement, don't see the movie. When you do have that representation out there, seek it out, go and support those movies.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard rumors of a Fast and Furious spin-off movie centered around Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham's characters. And this week we got news that Idris Elba is set to play the villain in the Hobbs and Shaw spin-off. We'll also be getting, Veronica Kirby, I believe her name is, from The Crown, joining that cast. Bailey, let me go to you for this one. Yay or nay? Idris Elba as the villain in the Fast and Furious universe.
Yeah, that's the big. I'm all for it. I think Idris has just been doing fantastic work lately, and that's more testosterone in one film than I can handle. Like I'm gonna have like an overload watching that movie with those three guys in it. Yeah. That's insane. Look, I'm all for it. I think I don't know who the director is of the movie. I don't think it's even really going to be that good.
Dwayne himself.
I would not be surprised at this stage. Like, the guy...
so it's David Leitch, the Deadpool 2 director.
I forgot that, and now I'm way more on board. Yes, yeah, Deadpool 2's John Wick, that was it.
John Wick?
He's apparently... Well, let's see how long that lasts. I have a feeling that won't follow through. Because he's got like three... He's announced for like 3 separate films right now, I believe.
Oh, is he gonna DJ Khaled it? Did you hear what DJ Khaled did? He was supposed to be the Wireless Fest in the UK or something, and then they're like, oh, he couldn't make it because of the plane. And they're like, bro, he just tweeted that he's on vacation and he's got a private jet.
Possibly the most Khaled thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. So it's like this thing. He's like, oh, I'm gonna do this movie. It's like, you literally have no time to do this.
Another one. Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm interested to see how that actually turns out, but I think I'm all on board with that that movie. Rock must have really wanted to get away from Vin Diesel, hey?
Yeah,
that's like he's like, oh no, I'm the one who reinvigorated this franchise. I'm going to keep it going, but I'm going to do my own thing now.
Kind of, but yeah, there was that whole fallout. I'd recommend anyone just go in there and search it up. There's videos of it and stuff. They had a whole fallout, and now he's got his own spin-off, and I'm for the Idris Elba thing. Seeing him play a villain, I loved seeing Charlize play a villain in the last one. I think their villains are pretty good, so I'm up for it. Yeah.
Yeah, not to diss too much on the Fast and Furious franchise, but I feel like a spin-off movie with Jason Statham, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Idris Elba is basically giving me better version of the Fast and Furious. If this is how they're going to expand the universe, I'm all for it.
Might just be the Furious part.
Right?
Just minus the Fast, just the Furious, yeah.
Yeah.
The Furious. Can you imagine this franchise getting so big and then people go, oh, yeah, did you know it actually spawned off from another one? What? What are those movies?
Please, no. No, that's okay. I get around the Fast films, to be honest, since 5. Justin Lin did a great job bringing that one back.
They're dumb fun. They're dumb fun.
Yeah, and dumb fun that doesn't treat you like you're dumb. I can't really account for the 7th one, which I thought kind of... struggled with that a bit. But at least 5, 6, and 8 actually treated the audience well. They were actually really well made. They weren't a triple X, put it that way.
Disney's upcoming film, The Nutcracker and Four Realms, underwent extensive reshoots in December of last year. So extensive that original director Lasse Hallström, who was unable to make it for the reshoots, is not going to be credited as the sole director of Nutcracker and the Four Realms. Joe Johnston is going to be receiving a co-director credit. He'll be on the second line of the poster, below Lasse Hallström's name. Art, yay or nay, you could see more movies doing shared directing credit in the future.
I think it's already happening. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, this isn't like, I wonder if this is going to continue. Let me back up a bit.
I'm kind of shocked from that just quickly, because I was just talking to someone the other day about how excited I was about seeing that director take on the movie in general, and I'm kind of in shock hearing that now. I had no idea. That's really shocking to hear. Okay.
I feel with the news being out there more, like being able to cover a lot more things, and we get our movie news. I believe this has been happening for the longest time, and it's usually been it's usually been the studios.
We've been hearing this with all the Star Wars movies recently. Lord and Miller shot part of Solo, and then Ron Howard finished it. I think report came out that he was responsible for about 70% of what we saw.
So it's been happening. The whole Josh Whedon
yeah.
thing with Justice League.
Yeah, it was
a bunch
Rogue
of the other
One.
movies
Rogue
that
One
have been
got
out
redone
there.
a bit after it was done.
So I feel this is going to continue to
It's
happen.
interesting that this somehow fell enough in the middle that the Directors Guild felt they needed to divide responsibility. Because like you said,
wild.
we've seen situations similar to this, but you know, Tony Gilroy is like uncredited for his work on Rogue One.
My thing is just...
He should be, because he
What-
did so much of that movie. It's so obvious to me.
What was
watching
with the
this.
reshoots? Like, if
Yeah.
the man finished his job, then he should have... If he didn't finish his job, then he should have been... You know, it's in the contract. This is when we're going to do reshoots when needed. But he wasn't available, which tells me that the reshoots were done in haste, maybe, because they wanted to redo something a producer or someone watched it, which makes me worry about the movie, because I think the movie looks interesting.
Yeah, I think it was that the
What?
reshoots were more extensive than they originally planned.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've just looked at... I thought Joe Johnston... I was like, I feel like I know that name, and it is because it is Jurassic Park 3 and Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yeah.
So, a stylist director, which is interesting. This is what I noticed about all these directors they're bringing in for reshoots now, is they bring in someone who is who has a neutral visual style, who is a storyteller, as all directors are, but have neutral visual styles. It's what they did with
Yeah.
Ron Howard. Like, you describe what a Ron Howard film looks like. Describe what a
movie?
what a Tony Gilroy film looks like. You can't, and that's why they bring them in, is because there's someone who's just going to get the
good
job
point.
done.
A good point.
Really well. That's why, man. Like watching Rogue One. That's why when I watch Rogue One, I can see you've got Gareth Edwards with his handheld camera, and then as soon as it cuts, I could literally see on a cut when it was to Tony Gilroy, because it was on a crane, it was moving, it was swinging, it was like studio mandated.
Yeah.
I'm so stunned by this news, because I had no idea it was happening. And I was just watching the trailer the other day, because the cinematography is by Lana Sangren, who did La La Land. So from that perspective, I was really keen to see.
It looks
and
beautiful.
I'm interested whether they brought him back to finish that off, because he would have been working on First Man last December with Damien Chazelle again. So
Oh, you're saying if they even got a new cinematographer?
I'm instantly feeling this film's going to be... And now looking at the trailer, because the trailer goes from stuff where I was like, wow, to... So I'm... Yeah, look, I can't remember what the actual question part of this was, but I'm just shocked. I'm just so shocked by this news currently that I'm... Whatever they've done there, I'm against it. Put it that way. Put it that way. I'm against whatever they've done here. I'm not a fan of this reshooting business. I know it happens.
Yeah.
But if it is happening at the magnitude that it is, and we are only just finding out about it now, obviously Justice League is an extreme case. What was it? Solo is an extreme case.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this has been happening for a while. Why are the directors not in a position where they are able to finish their movie? Is what I'm finding interesting. How are their contracts allowing them to move on to another film before they are done with the one they are working on?
It's also this interesting...
Because that means they're not there in the editing room. That means that, that they
this-
have not booked the time to be there. I just find that,
It's this interesting shift we're seeing where I think a lot of times we've been given this idea or fed this idea of the director as the steward of a movie, as the captain of that ship. Whether it's going back to, the 70s Hollywood auteurs or Spielberg's blockbusters, it's the director who is the main vision behind it. And now we're seeing an era where it's really the studios are the main vision behind it, and they kind of are just bringing on directors to help guide it along.
Yeah.
Scary
Anyway.
stuff. Scary, yeah.
We were really excited to see what Trey Edward Schultz would do next after Krisha and It Comes at Night. It seems that he's set to reteam with A24 on a pretty unexpected movie, though. Lucas Hedges and Sterling K. Brown will join him for Waves, a musical, set to come out, I believe, next year. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are also attached to do the score.
Okay.
Bailey, yay or nay? Is this a exciting move from Trey Edward Schultz?
Well, put it this way. If I hadn't have heard that news and I was still drinking my water at that point, as I heard you said musical, I would have spat it out. I would have, what? No, I heard about this earlier this week, and I'm fully on board. The fact that I haven't seen Krisha yet, I've got it.
Oh,
it's one of the few films I have sitting on my laptop, meaning it is ready to go, and I still haven't watched it. But I loved It Comes at Night. I saw it twice. Absolutely frothed it. Hearing him do something so drastically different next up, fully on board. I don't really have anything else to say about that other than that is just, there's a lot of yes there. Two actors that are working at the kind of peak of their game as well. Straight up yes.
Same. Yay. I think he's a very interesting director. I love listening to his voice in interviews because he's got that smoker's deep voice. I'm curious to see how he does a twist on a musical a little bit differently. And Sterling K. Brown's the man, bro. I just saw him in Marshall last night. Sterling K. Brown's getting work, man. So, yes.
Yeah, Sterling K. Brown is great. Love Lucas Hedges. Kelvin Harrison, who's the star of It Comes at Night, is also signed on to do this movie.
Let's go.
So it'll be interesting to see him in a very different kind of role. But yeah, I mean, Krisha and It Comes at Night, for what they share, they're still very different movies.
Yes.
So he's obviously a guy who can work in different types of genres.
He's good.
This seems like a big step in a different direction. The fact that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are attached makes me feel like this is not going to be
That's what I'm telling you. Sounds like a horror
old-timey Broadway musical or something. So I'm very on board for Waves. I'm curious to see what he'll give us. Let's get into the rough cuts and just hit a few news stories quickly. Stefano Sollima won't return for Sicario 3. Art, yay or nay? That's good news for the Sicario franchise.
Yeah, for the people who liked the last one, I'm sure that they're going to like this upcoming one. Sicario's an anthology. The director and the writers have said it. Some people don't want to believe it, but yeah, sure.
Miles Teller is set to play Goose's son in the upcoming Top Gun sequel. Bailey, yay or nay, you're excited for the team-up of Tom Cruise and Miles Teller?
I haven't seen Top Gun, so look. You put Miles Teller in anything though, and I'll watch it. I'm obviously gonna have to see the first one before seeing this one because I'll have to review it. But yeah, put Miles Teller in anything, and hell yeah.
Awesome. Nick Refn is starting a streaming service of cult classics that he'll be giving away for free in anticipation of his new TV series. Art, yay or nay? This is a good way to promote your new stuff.
Sure. That guy's crazy.
Yeah, he's actually genuinely insane, man.
Right? Yeah, sure.
Have I ever told you about when I interviewed Nick Refn?
Why?
I interviewed him when I was still working on my college radio station. And it was after Drive came out, so I was talking to him about Drive. It was a interview with two other people there, and one of the other interviewers asked him if he would ever be interested in doing a superhero movie, and he said, "I don't think I need to do a superhero movie because Drive is the best superhero movie."
Yes, I've seen this bit. I've seen this quote.
Yeah,
That's G.
He's very into himself. I'll say that much.
Yeah,
at
he
least.
does not kind of mince words. He goes straight for the throat with everything.
Bro,
he
he's
says,
like the Kanye of the. He's like the Kanye of the movie world.
pretty much, eh?
And lastly, Sony uploaded the entire cut of Kali the Killer to YouTube instead of uploading the trailer. Bailey, yay or nay? Do you think Sony received a copyright claim?
From themselves, yeah. Yeah, that's honestly the most like unbelievable thing I've heard in quite a while. Like that intern got fired for sure. Hey, like
very quickly.
How does that happen? How do you not see the difference between a 10-minute upload and a 3-hour upload?
The internet must be they must be on some super fast internet. Hey, like something that I can't even comprehend.
Yeah. Wonder why this 100 gigabyte file is taking so long to upload.
This is like when DreamWorks did that. Remember when DreamWorks, or the copyright way, when DreamWorks uploaded whatever it was and they copyrighted their own thing, their own trailer? Or when The Mummy uploaded it without any of the dialogue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we all remember that, yeah.
Yep.
We don't remember The Mummy, though.
Where were you when?
Foolish.
All right, so that does it for our yay or nay news. Let us know what you think about all these topics in the comments down below. We'll get to reading them if any of them are interesting to us. So keep with us. We're going to get into the topic of the week. And on this week's show, our topic is fan backlash and movie trolls in light of some directors and filmmakers taking to Twitter to deal with Star Wars backlash.
My boy's going at him.
It's a topic that will never die, it seems like. But I think there's been some interesting developments that are worth talking about, considering the recent interactions Rian Johnson, Christopher McQuarrie, and James Mangold have had with some Twitter-based Star Wars fans. I believe it started with Rian Johnson answering to some attacks.
Of course.
He's snapped, man. He's snapped. He's had enough.
Rian Johnson's kind of funny, man. I hope he doesn't go crazy.
I think he already is a bit. He did a Star Wars movie. You got to be crazy enough to sign on to that.
Right. There's only so much abuse you can take before I feel like you gotta say something
yeah.
back to it. And when you are in charge of a franchise as big as Star Wars, you're gonna be pissing off a lot of people, regardless of whether or not you're doing well with it. So he's responded to some people on Twitter, basically dismissing controversy or laughing at people's frustrations with the film. Christopher McQuarrie, the director of the most recent Mission Impossible movie, ended up tagged on some of this stuff and has also kind of shared his thoughts.
Bro, he took the ball and went all the way to the end zone with it.
Yeah, he responding to the tone of, why are you doing this with your life, to different people on Twitter. I think one quote I have here is, "My friend, after 5 minutes of this, I don't know why you're still on Twitter. I would have loved to have made a Star Wars film someday. I'm cured." I think this all kind of came to a head and finished with James Mangold, who's currently signed on to do the Boba Fett spinoff, I believe. He tweeted earlier this week, "At the point when writing and directing big franchises has become the emotionally loaded equivalent of writing a new chapter of the Bible, with the probable danger of being stoned and called a blasphemer, then a lot of bolder minds are going to leave these films to hacks and corporate boards." Somebody said they already have. He responded, if you feel that's the case, if you feel filmmakers are just corporate tools and powerless, then why bitch at us? In the case of Rian Johnston and Christopher McQuarrie, I assure you, these cats are not owned. They actually fight your battles behind the scenes. The fervor of some attacks has an evangelical ferocity. Now I get it for many folks, including me, the Star Wars saga holds tremendous spiritual power, similar to religious texts, but we must remember to try and handle our disappointments the way Yoda might, as opposed to Darth.
I retweeted the shit out of that. I'm just going to point that out in advance. That was,
Bailey, you want to get us started? What are your thoughts on James Mangold's going in on Star Wars haters?
Look, I've been really actively involved in the Star Wars kind of community recently, since the sequels. They've come out in like my generation. I kind of missed the original Star Wars movies.
Right.
Well, obviously I wasn't born then. I missed the prequels just. I got into them a year after Revenge of the Sith came out. So this Star Wars is my time. This is now. I've been really involved in it all, and look, we have never seen anything on the magnitude, I think, in the history of film, probably ever. Like, I don't think even back in the 50s, 60s, there was ever movie. Obviously, the platform of the internet wasn't available, but we've never seen anything quite like what is going on here with Star Wars. It's honestly, and I think at some point the filmmakers, obviously the studios want them to keep quiet. Like, there's only so much of a leash they can, keep them on. But
at the same time, there's only so much abuse that can be directed to a person.
And that's it. At some point, I'm glad that these guys now are stepping up and actually, it's interesting that people are hurling. So much of the stuff I see is abuse getting hurled at them, and then as soon as anyone says, any of these guys say anything back, they're like, oh, you can't do that, you have to be professional. And you're like, how is someone supposed to fight? Like,
that's the thing.
Like, what do you want from them? That's the thing I keep coming back to, is what do these people actually, what do they actually want from these guys? And I'm glad to see that these guys are stepping up and trying to, there's definitely an element of them having fun with it now. They've realized that some of these people are lost.
Don't ever get it, yeah.
I don't want to say that they'll never, but like, they are honestly so convinced in their ways that what they're saying is right, and obviously there is no right or wrong to it.
You don't have to like the movies, but you shouldn't be insulting other human beings on a daily basis.
It's 2018. Politicians are on Twitter now. There's only so much that we can expect, like a professional discourse or whatever, when you're being hateful to someone. And this is not, Twitter's not anonymous. It feels anonymous, but it's not.
Right. And the funniest thing about this is that they weren't unprofessional. You were just mad you got schooled.
Yeah,
Y'all
yeah,
confusing
that was it.
unprofessionalism with you got a whooping and you know how to take that L. That's what
Right,
happened
right.
there.
That's it, but I like the fact that they've, you know, it's a really kind of, I feel like it's a messed up thing in a way that I'm so for it, but they've taken people who I feel are more or less lost and used them as a demonstration for everyone else. And I know that there's probably some form of, you know, ethical thing to that where it's like, is that okay? But they're literally showing, they're like, here's an example of something that is dumb as shit. And now we're going to take this tweet and I'm going to use this to hopefully educate other people on why this is dumb as shit. And if you're hearing it from the top, can you then say, you know, like, can we say that, like, I'm losing that one. But, like, it's like, I feel like if we're hearing it from the top, people are going to start listening. I think that's what I'm trying to say there is, if you're hearing it from the top, people are going to start listening.
You were talking about how this is an unprecedented thing in the course of entertainment, and getting this type of response from our entertainers is also an unprecedented thing.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, there's always been people who haven't necessarily liked art.
Hey.
But to get to hear the creators justify their decision making, getting to hear some of the emotional toll that these decisions have made, I think is a unique thing that, you know, we often treat our films and our entertainment as these products, and you know, if they're products we don't like, we want to return them the way you return bad food or something. But Art, go ahead.
Zach, Bailey, do you believe, because this has been a debate for the longest time, should directors explain their work?
No, I was just going to jump onto that. No director wants to explain as much as, like, I don't know, have you guys filmmakers, all of you guys made films before? Just out of curiosity, have you guys done... You had that thing inside you where you want to tell people what you were thinking. Unfortunately there's that, like, kind of ego thing that you can't kind of combat, where I feel like you want to say, at least for me, you know, I want to tell people, but at the same time, you don't want to have to explain it. You want your work to speak for itself. So I think it's really saying something that these guys have hit the point where obviously it's a case of the misconception of stuff is so bad that they have to speak up.
Exactly. How do you not want to explain something when people
that's really something. Because I don't think anyone should have to explain their work. I understand that some people enjoy, like Zack Snyder really enjoys kind of people bring details to him and he confirms them, and I think that's a fantastic thing that he does. Is he interacts with the community. I mean, I'm not a big Zack Snyder fan at all. I'm learning to love the guy slowly over time. But there's an element of interaction there, and I think there's a positive, you know, there's a positive thing that can be said there. But no one wants to sit down and, you know, have to explain their movies like that, even on a commentary. I mean, I don't know if you guys have listened to the Last Jedi commentary track. Johnson didn't really overly, you know, it's not like sitting there and giving a lecture, you know, like a film school lecture. No one wants to do that, and that's what these guys have been pushed to a point that that's what they're doing. They're giving a film school lecture. They're not just talking about their movie and, you know, I love shooting this scene. Here's what we did here. We did some really cool things you might not have noticed. It's not a case of that anymore. And so they're literally being put in a position where they're being forced to not even explain their film, but have to explain themselves.
Exactly. I think it gets to a certain point. See, I've always felt that's our jobs, right? Like, one of the biggest things that I've always liked doing is creating
They're going to put us out of a job if they keep doing this.
Yeah, exactly. To be the ones to kind of... I've always felt, because then the debate that I then saw this going into was criticism, and I don't know if you have the tweets for that, but what I specifically stumbled upon wasn't this whole thing with Star Wars, but it was when it dived in and it became this Twitter moment between McQuarrie and Johnson talking about criticism and what was the point of criticism, was it worth it or not? And they had said a lot of things that I agreed with, they had said some things that I didn't, and where there's that idea where if you don't make a movie, then you're not allowed to judge it. I don't agree with that. I also... There was that thing about, does the filmmaker know the movie better than anyone else? To a technical degree, yes, but you also cannot define the movie for an audience member. And I've always felt, for us who have a presence in, I guess, the film community, if we do in any way, shape, or form, is being that person to not tell people, and we had this discussion before the show, Bailey and I, and Zach, we've had it in between our honeymoons and stuff, we've had this discussion. That idea that who cares about, yes, this movie is good, yes, this movie is bad. What about the why? And I think it's always been this thing where a lot of pretentious film fans always go, there's no reason to explain it. Well, but like those kids, they don't get 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, there was that whole thing with 13 Reasons Why making fun of it because it was so pretentious. And I feel that many times that pretentiousness comes in because however the noun of it would be, whatever it is, refuses to explain because it wants to be this inner circle. And I don't think it's bad to explain movies like 2001 and The Shining, because the reason why you like it, sure, there's this visceral experience because you're watching the film, but people who don't understand it don't know anything about it. We were talking earlier about cigars, that I had gotten cigars to celebrate, right? But I don't know anything about cigars, but there's an art to cigars, right? It's like some people just drink, I'm a beer aficionado, I want to say. Some people just drink beer, they drink their Keystone, but there's an art to craft beer. These are strong, yeah. Holy. But you don't understand the arts of food and movies and music until you understand film theory and music theory and the different notes to taste and stuff. You know, you were talking about coffee earlier, how you just don't like the taste of coffee, but I'm sure that you still respect that there's a certain craft that goes into it.
Yes.
And when people go, oh, there's no reason to explain movies and stuff like that, I'm like, but who's gonna reach these kids
yeah.
to hit that quote? And I felt that that's kind of been our job in a sense, to kind of remind people, or not remind people, but kind of open them into that world of, yo, you're new, you don't understand this stuff. It's okay to kind of get it explained. It's like you said, the filmmakers don't need to be given the lectures. But the lecturers out there aren't doing that because we're getting this whole group of people who go, this is an inner circle, and if you didn't get the film, you don't understand it. Homie, you don't understand the film either. Like you were saying, we were mentioning earlier, where it's okay, you do not have to like a film, but the most interesting thing I've always found is when some people go, that movie was trash and it didn't explain anything, and you go, what about this scene? Oh, I didn't even get that scene.
Right.
Sure, you don't have to like it, but I'm just saying you didn't get it.
We don't want to make movies this elitist thing that only the intellectuals can understand, or it's only for the intellectuals.
Because those intellectuals weren't always intellectuals, and that's the biggest thing I think most people miss. This is the goal of my channel, is that I started out as someone who didn't understand. My favorite movie for a long time was From Paris with Love with John Travolta, and it's a trash movie, but I didn't understand anything better at the time. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that you shouldn't understand and read movies the same way now, the same way 5 years ago that you do now, or the same way, for me, it's on a daily basis. Like, it should change day by day.
Yep.
So, I think for me, it's one of those things where I think it needs to constantly evolve, and I think the discussion feels like such a closed loop thing.
Yeah.
And it's why part of my process has been I've been trying to eliminate words like overrated and underrated from my vocabulary.
Or what's the big one on Twitter? Objectively.
Interesting relationship with that word, which I won't get into, because I believe just want to point everyone to a video that was done last week by Just Right. Just Right. Sage Hayden did a video. He did a Last Jedi video, had a lot of backlash. So he did a video on the way people watch movies, and the fact that you can actually have there's like a semi-objective zone where different people fall into different categories of why they watch a film based on certain reasons. So I'm a critic. I work in a critical mindset all the time. Right. I will fall into a similar category, a group, not a specific thing. We all walk out of it saying the exact same thing, but we're looking at that movie with a different criteria than people. Like say the Marvel movies are a good one because a lot of people go in for a fun time.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm there because not even because I have a job to do. Even if I wasn't reviewing the movie at the end of the day, I still watch movies in a certain way where I expect certain things. I read a visual language and audio language differently to other people. And I think, there's something there to be learned over time with the fact that I just want to shout out that video because I think it's a really interesting watch for a lot of people, that different people watch movies in different ways. And I think this is something that people are failing to kind of understand currently, and it's why I think the film community is so all over the place. It's why
so you feel this is like a failure of audiences, not a failure of filmmakers.
I think it goes both ways. I think it goes
both ways, but I think it's a lack of kind of, I guess, I don't want to say it's understanding, because some people are content with their understanding being in a certain way, and I don't like to use the term level. But I do think there is a sense of levels to it.
No, there is.
My whole family will watch his movies as surface level as you can get.
Because that's
and
what they
can
want.
Look,
Yeah.
They can look at, you know, I watched movies like, let's say I watched The Revenant with them at one point. I rarely watch movies with them because they talk the whole way through and it drives me nuts. But I watched The Revenant with them, and they can watch that and go, hey, that's a good looking movie. But they can't tell me what each shot in that movie is telling you. They can subconsciously feel it because that's how the movie works, but they can't tell you how and why that shot worked that way to make you feel that way, which I can. And that's something that I think, yeah, you know, like, when we talk about the way we're talking about movies, there needs to be an understanding that there's different levels to it. And, you know, when people come to my channel and to my reviews, you have people saying, you know,
levels to
it. You know, we just watch it. Oh, you guys, you know, you've got no idea what you're talking about. You're speaking a different language. You know, like, what is it you're doing? And I'm like, yeah, it's a different language. You can learn it. I'm here to teach you. Yeah. And so I think that's what a lot of people, you know, it is a language. It is different people out there are speaking different languages, and we all think we're speaking one language. Right. I think that's the way I treat it. We all think that we're speaking one language. Film is
babble.
Well, there's multiple dialects.
We don't do a very good job of understanding each other, this might not be for me.
Film Twitter is the Tower of Babel. That's what that is. We're all coming in from different perspectives. But I think that there needs to be that consistency. Like you said, you watch every movie. Doesn't matter if it's a Marvel movie or what people call an Oscar bait film. You're going in there with that same mindset. I think some people pick and choose. And I'm sure you got in this in your comment section. It's just a movie. Chill, turn off your brain and watch it. Then you'll find that same person in another video super pissed off at Transformers going, this movie's dumb. That's where I see a problem with people's logic going, oh, you're picking and choosing.
Selective.
We were talking about this a little bit last week, even when it comes to film criticism, about wanting to be critical. And I do see a lot of people coming in with a lot of biases, even when they think they're being critical. We were talking about Sicario last week, which again, besides the movie and whether it's just dumb fun or not. I know you didn't like it that much. The second Sicario.
Yeah, it wasn't huge.
What I saw a lot of viewpoints was, and I was talking to Zach about this because I had seen it in February as opposed to seeing it now, was a political climate that had changed.
Yeah, I watched this. Context. Yeah, the shift. Yeah,
and seeing a lot of people come in, and I'm going, but I thought we were just talking about judging a movie for a movie.
Right.
Now I start seeing biases. Which you don't have to like the movie from the beginning at the start, but I noticed that where a lot of people forgot that their Sicario review from 2015 was still published online, but now that the climate's changed a bit, you were backtracking on that. That's where I find it a little bit interesting. This is where we go back to that conversation we were talking about earlier about representation and stuff, where many times, where even when we think we're being critical, we're not being critical of the movie, we're being critical of our own perspective, of bias. We were talking about Mad Men, and how Mad Men is a perfectly crafted show, but now we're kind of a little in the back of our mind thinking, but he's a bad guy. Can I support a bad? Well, you're not supporting a bad guy. It's a story.
Right. Yeah, you find what's going on interesting. I mean, it's like this idea, if we only made things about things we support, we would never have heist movies, or we would never have movies that depicted racism or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think are all important in their ways. I want to circle back to something that Christopher McQuarrie said. You were talking about how he's talking a bit about critics. These are two tweets that I found interesting, or three rather. All angry, bitter, nasty criticisms have the same subtext. Quote, "You squandered an opportunity that should have been mine." End quote. I can't say criticism never bothered me again, but it never had the same power. Angry criticism has even less, because I have never seen the angry critic's pain. The people criticizing Rian Johnson have every right to do so. The angry ones have every right to be angry. He did not give them what they expected, and he did so in a way that they feared. They take one quote as hostility to their feelings, and they hold on to this as justification. They take the moral high ground and squander it with personal attacks. They don't realize that the only criticisms that really hurt are the ones that are right, and nothing makes criticism more wrong and easier to dismiss than making it personal.
Yes.
And I think this is going back to a lot of what we're saying, is that, a lot of these attacks go over the line where it's not even about the movie. It's about saying, Rian Johnson is the worst person alive.
That's not criticism.
Yeah.
I know Bailey gets this all the time where they stop talking about your review. I mean, I get it all the time too. They start talking about you, and it's like, bro, you don't know me.
No, and that's...
Oh, you mad I didn't like the movie you liked.
That's interesting, because I had an interesting relationship with this. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about the response to Solo, and I talked about my own relationship with the DC universe. because I was someone who was super excited for Batman vs Superman, right? Like super excited, unrestrained. This is back before I used to really look into, you know, what's the movie actually going to turn out like? Because you can read that coming from a mile away on pretty much any movie, right? And I was fully into it, saw it opening night, came out of it. I felt like these Last Jedi fans do right now. I felt betrayed. I felt, you know, I was violated by the movie. And I spent like a couple of weeks calling out Zack Snyder on everything. Like, honestly, hashtag like fuck Zack Snyder, take him off Justice. I was like a manic fan. No, I was one of these people. And I came to it's amazing.
It's like we're at the AA meeting to go full circle. So you're the perfect example.
It's amazing because now it's like I look at that. I dug up a couple of, because this is back when I was using Facebook before, because Australia doesn't really use Twitter, and God, they're missing out. They are missing out because I'm on that now. But like dug them up on Facebook, and I was like stunned. I was commenting on every post by every outlet, like IGN, Variety, Hollywood Reporter. I was just spamming stuff, hashtags like fuck Zack Snyder, bring back George Miller, like
you get the
that
mindset.
Kind of stuff.
You get the mindset.
That kind of stuff. And there's almost like a pack mentality thing to it. Like
yeah.
I started there, and then you just realize over time, like, what am I achieving?
And that's not the way to go about it. Yeah.
BVS has been such an interesting thing for me because it's a movie I don't enjoy watching. But now, like, 2 years later, goddamn do I appreciate it. It did something different. It did something, like, it's an interesting thing for me now because I respect.
That's the other thing. I think a lot of times we see this anger because it's like an initial reaction without context.
Yeah.
And we fail to recognize the way that art and movies really evolve over time.
That's it.
How our feelings can change.
Yes, sir.
When we see them in, you know, we have all this criticism of the new Star Wars movies. That saga's not over. We're still getting Episode 9.
Yeah, I don't think we can take The Last Jedi until we have Episode 9. We don't know for sure.
You can still judge it. You can still judge it.
For
you
sure.
can still judge it, but you're not. You know, we
don't have the full
context
picture
yet.
Yeah, we don't
and
have the full
act
picture.
like you do is just incorrect.
Which is why Batman v Superman is the greatest superhero movie, because we have not completed the Zack Snyder 10 trilogy.
We will not until we get the Snyder Cut. Until we get the Snyder Cut, we won't know.
Exactly, we won't know. But I agree with you, man. There's this thing with, to me, it's when it stops going. You can disagree with me in the YouTube comments. It's when you start coming on my Facebook and my Instagram and my Twitter that I go, you need to take it easy. Yeah. Because at that point, I see that thing again about 10 Cloverfield Lane where they swear something is there and it's not. But the moment it's proved that they were wrong, they'll never come back and apologize.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all points to the idea that, you know, the art needs a dialogue. It's not a monologue.
Yep.
It's not somebody dictating stuff to you. Whether it's the filmmaker or the critic, there's a give and take, and no constructive dialogue contains death threats. So, you know, I think, especially because art is such a subjective medium, there's no one true meaning behind a piece of art. It's very interpretable. You know, you look at the history of underrepresented people and how they've been able to reappropriate art that wasn't intended for them, and it shows you how art can have multiple meanings within one thing. And so to then come, you know, jump off the high rope and say, like, no, this is correct, and you are wrong, and I am right, and treating it like some zero-sum game, I think that's ultimately what ruins the experience for people. And I think it's good to mention that what I was struck by in James Mangold's comments is that he feels like this is the stuff that's going to keep the talented filmmakers away from these properties, and I agree with him. We're already complaining about how there's maybe a little bit too much monotony across these films. There's going to be more if you don't allow people to take risks and yell at them.
Imagine if The Prisoner of Azkaban came out now. Just gonna keep going back to that movie. Imagine if that movie came out now.
So
you've got an established universe.
With you, that's your favorite of the Harry Potter ones, because it's mine.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies ever. I kind of owe it. I owe that movie like my current understanding of film. I think that's the one that like springboarded.
Has any franchise ever had a more talented director on it than Cuarón?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a gift that we were able to get that. Like I'd point to The Dark Knight next maybe, but like I think Nolan wasn't Nolan as he is today. Yeah, and obviously Quaron wasn't at the time, but in hindsight, you know, it's kind of incredible. But like, the thing is there is that, you know, like, imagine if that movie was made today. You've already got to establish Harry Potter movies made by the guy who did, did like Home Alone and whatnot. So you've got this particular style. He was meant to do all 7. It was all 7 at the time before they knew they were doing 8. And then they bring in a guy whose previous movie was a sexed up road trip movie, to do a Harry Potter, like that. The idea that, like, we're already far removed from those days, and that's not that long ago.
Yeah,
like Nolan was thrown Batman Begins straight after Memento. He hadn't done Insomnia yet, and he said, no, give me 2 years. I'm going to do Insomnia first, then get back to me, and I'll do it for you. Mm-hmm. So we don't get that these days. Like, we don't get... The idea of that happening is just so impossible.
Colin Trevorrow goes straight from
safety. Yeah, you beat me to it. Yeah, all these indies that go straight to it. There's never the middle ground. It's straight to a huge
it's not even that though. Like, it's the fact that they've taken... It's not taking indie directors and doing... David Heyman's the producer for Harry Potter, and going... His mentality was, we're going to get a guy because of what he has to offer in all regards, not just his storytelling, or we're not getting him because he does great comedy or does great character or it's him as the entire package.
You don't think they do that now? You don't think they do that now? Or do you think
because I keep going back to the visuals. I keep going back to the visual storytelling in these Marvel movies and stuff, and it's just not there. It's just not there in the way these directors are really bringing to their other... Like, I don't know, because I think the way I watch movies... everyone's got a really specific way of watching movies, right? But, like, watching The Prisoner of Azkaban, that is what I should have seen in Black Panther. Because Quaron and Coogler have very similar styles. Long take, extended shots, moving camera, reframing, all that stuff, right? That wasn't there in Black Panther. Black Panther, if you look at the shot framing, it's all singles, all shot reverse, none of Coogler's original style is there. It's distinctly one of his movies in pretty much every way but the visuals. And what I'm saying is these directors aren't being brought on as full packages, to the point that it feels like Abrams doing Force Awakens was an auteur doing because I'm distinctly seeing all Abrams there. That movie's all Abrams in every regard. But I'm starting to see less and less filmmakers being brought onto franchises to do that. And so I think there's an interesting thing there. If directors are feeling kind of under threat, as James Mangold has brought up there, will they want to come forth? It's hard to quantify with directors that don't have an immediately recognizable style. I wouldn't say Mangold has an immediately recognizable style, but I'd still say the guy's an auteur, and he's still a distinct filmmaker. I'm sure he would be feeling concerned going into Boba Fett. I know those films have been put on the back burner now because Disney's running scared currently because of all the backlash surrounding stuff. So I don't think we're ever going to see that film's ever going to see the light of day. But I'd be very concerned if I was in his position. I think it is a very valid concern that, and even then, like, Rian Johnson as a filmmaker with a style is pretty safe. He's a pretty safe bet for Disney because he's a ballsy filmmaker who's made some really ballsy stuff and is responsible for some of the best episodes of TV ever. But he's not a distinct, like, as a stylist, he's not overtly difficult. You know what I mean? Like,
he also works really well with his genre.
That's what we talked about. Remember when we said, why are they banking on a whole trilogy with this man? It seems that he's way more malleable than other directors that were probably options.
It's not even malleable, but it's more the fact that he fits into the studio system. If you look at the way that he shoots stuff, it's all, again, shot reverse, it's simple. Studios know what they're getting. When you bring in a director like, you know, Quaron or you know, Nolan was safe. Nolan's not safe anymore. He was at the time. You look at The Dark Knight, it's shot reverse and rotating shots. The 3 shot types in the whole movie. Really distinct, really easy stuff. But, like, I think going forward, there's a genuine risk. After seeing Coogler neutralized for Black Panther, I have a genuine concern with directors going forward with what they are going to be able to do. And, you know, with studios, and I know that's
only going to get worse if they're constantly under this threat of
fans,
fan backlash.
That's going into
like
it.
2013 or 2012. Remember, we were having this discussion. What was the year where either the internet or fans just became this, like, really crucial?
Started with Man of Steel, I think.
Which was 2013, right?
2013, yeah.
There was, like, a year where all of a sudden cynicism became the thing.
Also, track when Cinema Sins started. I'm just going to throw that in there.
I mean, I think these things are also going to just get exponentially worse because of the way way that internet is able to scale these voices. And
Yeah.
you know, you were mentioning earlier how these filmmakers are responding to like the lowest of the low criticism.
Yeah.
And you know, you see that a lot of these dumb criticisms are coming from Twitter accounts with 5 followers, 0 followers, and yet they sound, you know, the notification is just as big as someone with 100,000 followers. I think sometimes that like outsized voice that the internet gives people makes the criticism feel really loud when maybe it's not.
Exactly. But that's the problem, is that we feel like there's no middle ground, and I think that makes for a really it's just a really interesting environment, because it happens around every film. Initially at the start, everyone is, you know, that's why I'm not still talking about Thor Ragnarok. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. I'm just kind of in the middle on it. That's why I'm not still talking about it.
And you move on to the next thing you like. Yeah.
So my voice on that movie has fallen away, because I'm still talking about movies. I still talk about Mad Max Fury Road every day of my life. I still talk about Gravity. I still talk about Justice League. Obviously, movies are all different ends of the spectrum there, but they're at different ends of the spectrum. I don't bring up, you know, all this time later, how average was. I'm trying to think of an average, but that's the thing. I can't even think of one right now, because we don't talk about the movies in the middle ground.
Yeah, you don't obsess over those.
Yeah,
you don't. So it's an interesting thing in terms of the criticism circles, because we're having. Yeah, I think the people in the middle ground are the most interesting as well. I think they're the people that we can learn the most from. The most interesting discussions I've had about these divisive movies, Fallen Kingdom, The Last Jedi, Batman vs Superman, were the people that were in the middle. You know, that didn't really know where they sat on that type of thing.
And it's not bad to have passion. It just goes back to that thing of making somebody else maybe feel like crap because they didn't love or were at the standard of the movie that you did, or just bashing somebody else. I think my biggest thing has always been those people who think Rian Johnson, Zack Snyder are out to get them. It's
Right.
like, I don't believe you don't have to like these directors, but it's crazy to, again, what's my biggest thing that I always mention every episode is that intent, to put somebody's intent in their mouth. They're not making these movies because they don't know you. I think they're making something they like, and it didn't work for you. That is completely different.
I mean, the idea that they would make something
to
that
destroy your
is
childhood,
intentionally bad, or to intentionally
I was there. That's what I'm saying
It's
before. It's like,
weird.
that's where
I
I
don't get
was.
it.
I was in that position, and now 2 years later, I realized that I was an I was an idiot, man. That's honestly the worst mindset I can imagine myself having.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys out there, as someone who is in that position, and
there is a way to change.
Leave
Call
the
this number.
directors alone. Leave these filmmakers alone.
Yeah.
As almost was it Chris McQuarrie that said, whichever one of James Mangold that said, it's probably more the producers or the studio. Even then, I'm pretty sure Kathleen Kennedy deserves a bit of a break right now. So don't even just stop going after the people. Talk about the movies, and filmmakers listen, man. Filmmakers listen, and that's why Justice League happened.
especially if you approach them respectfully.
I mean, they listen, though. It's proof that they listen, but you just gotta be careful. I tweeted something else out a while ago about, like, be careful not to panic them. Actually, I mentioned it in that solo video. Be careful not to panic them, because people panicked DC and Warner Brothers, and that gave us Suicide Squad and Justice League.
Yeah.
That's due to fans panicked them. So you've got to keep the criticism, like, they're out there listening. They're all listening. You just got to try to say it in the right way. You know what I mean? Leave the filmmakers alone.
I think that's a good note to end our fan backlash topic of the week on. Let us know what you think about this subject in the comments down below. We should get to the new to see and talk about what's new in theaters, on streaming, and VOD, starting with July 13th. Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation, Art's Pumped.
Ooh, the trilogy.
And Skyscraper, featuring Dwayne Johnson's detachable metal leg.
Yeah, I got critic invites to both, and I declined both of them.
How dare you.
I got my media invites for both of them, and I was
Yeah.
like, declined. Sorry, I'm not reviewing them. I can't review any more mediocre movies. I have nothing left to say. I sit there and go, hey,
You know what?
it's average.
When Skyscraper comes out and has a Metacritic of 98.
But I would actually not be surprised if, because it's directed by, I think, the Baywatch director.
Oh, okay. No, that's getting the opposite.
No, I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if there's some form of element to it where it's like, it falls into that dumb fun category where it's right. Not like the Rampage dumb fun where it was like Rampage was actually just outright like insanely stupid and like insulting. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if Skyscraper kind of has.
I could see Skyscraper being
I can
fun.
see Skyscraper maybe having something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Also,
skip him.
Also out in limited release, Shock and Awe, Puzzle, Sorry to Bother You, Expand,
Let's go.
and 8th Grade is finally out in New York and LA.
Yeah.
We'll get those in about 6 months. Yeah, Australia won't get those for ages.
New to streaming, not a whole lot of new options on Netflix. July 15th, the Joel McHale Show with Joel McHale returns. On HBO Now, July 14th, Battle of the Sexes, the Emma Stone,
Tennis.
Steve Carell. Yeah. And then on July 16th, Robin Williams, Come Inside My Mind. That's a new documentary about the late comedian. On VOD, July 10th, A Quiet Place, Lean on Pete, Sweet Country, and The Leisure Seeker. Quiet Place probably being the one that I'd recommend out of all those. I don't know
Check out Sweet Country though. Check out Sweet Country if you can. I saw that at Venice. It's Australian made. It's actually pretty good. If you like a slow burn western that gives a good idea at like our culture like 100 years ago or like 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, check it out.
There we go.
2 weeks ago.
No.
All right, let's do pick of the week. Art, start us off.
Got the pick of the week. If it is expanding in your area, my theater pick for the week is Sorry to Bother You. I believe I had mentioned Won't You Be My Neighbor last week, so if that's expanding, definitely check that out. But Sorry to Bother You, I believe, is the big one out there. Like I said, this is good. I want people to see it because I want to hear the people complaining or the people loving it. It's so bonkers. It's crazy. This is the bonkers WTF movie that worked for me this year. Caught it at Sundance. I can't wait to catch it again. So definitely check that out because I'm curious to see people's thoughts on it. There's a specific rap scene in there that I think really is one of the highlights of the movie, but definitely check that out. You may not love it, you may not like it, but I definitely say that it's something different and definitely give it a watch. If you are at home, though, I believe Zach and I are both going to have a very similar recommendation on this. Glow. You have an entire season and then an entire new season to catch up on, so definitely check that out. So, in theaters, Sorry to Bother You. At home, Glow.
Bailey, any choices?
I totally jumped on that early. I didn't realize that wasn't. I was like, as you're bringing them up, I was like, oh, quick! Before we forget, we must shout out this type of thing. No, so what was it? I heard there was Sweet Country was in there. What were the other ones? There was Lean on Pete's really good. Saw that at the world premiere as well. That was dope. Really, emotional kind of story about a young kid who doesn't have a whole lot in his life, and kind of process and attach. What was that?
Quiet Place.
Yeah, Quiet Places. Yeah, those three, man. Like, check those out in cinemas. I haven't seen Sorry to Bother You. I won't get that for about 6 months, but I cannot wait to see that. So even though I haven't seen that, I'd want to shout out, like, recommend seeing that.
He said Ant-Man and the Wasp twice in theaters.
No, none of that. And if you're at home on Netflix or watching stuff at home, I don't know. I only just finished Westworld, and I wish I'd stopped at season 1. So I don't know. That's it. Yeah, watch whatever. Just pick something random and chuck it on.
Enjoy life.
Just pick something random. Just chuck something on.
Yeah, definitely let us know your guys' picks of the weeks down below as well because we do read them. Some of you guys actually have some very interesting choices, which just adds to like our ever-growing list of either TV shows or movies that we gotta catch up on. So that's always dope to hear.
We had a comment last week asking if we've seen 7 Seconds. I haven't, but I know you have. I don't know if you want to.
I think I had
give your.
Yeah, I know I had brought it up on whatever month that was on my wrap up for my channel, but I want to say that I did cover it on one of the what we've been watching on one of the previous ones. Yeah. But I love 7 Seconds.
I think it was a pick for the week at some point.
It probably was a pick for the week that I had as well. So yeah, no, I do like it. So yeah, that's my thing about that.
I'm with you in the recommendation of Glow Season 2. It's great. It's probably better than the first season, and Alison Brie is doing some really amazing stuff at the center of that show. It's very funny. There's interesting drama in it, too. I think it's a very easy watch and a fun watch, too. And then if you want to check out a movie, VOD, we just talked about it last week on the show as one of my favorites of the year so far, A Quiet Place. It's not amazing, but it's a solid horror thriller. Not a bunch of scares in there, but I love the construction of it. I love how it's playing with the idea of what do you do when you take the sound away as an element to really utilize. So I think it's a really interesting movie from John Krasinski, and I would definitely recommend it. But that's all for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter @ZShevich, or on Instagram, also @ZShevich. And check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplexshow. Bailey, where can people check out more stuff from you?
Plug yourself, Bailey.
Well, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Breaking Banter. I've also got Instagram as well, which you can follow me on, but I don't do too much on there. Obviously, you've got my YouTube channel, Breaking Banter. I have a new show coming out this weekend. The trailer is dropping on Thursday. The new show is going to be kind of an appreciation type thing, where it's just me talking about stuff that I love, whether that's films, games, TV, music, whatever. Just a new thing every 2 weeks or so, as often as I can pump it out. So you might want to check that out. But yeah, that's me.
Oh, you can find me at the A to Z Show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Big shout out to you guys who watched Let Me Explain. I passed 100,000, so it was like supposed to be a little experiment. I guess it's working, so Hear Me Out, I guess, is next. Mainly those two big things is that way I have my fully dedicated movie channel, which obviously you guys are liking, fully dedicated music channel, and then I got plans for the A to Z Show, man. I got plans to make it like a true show, not just covering like Skyscraper that came out for the week, but like some other stuff. So I got some videos that I'm going to be working on for the rest of the year, similar to the style, kind of this backdrop that you guys see here. But that's some big moves that I'm hoping to make for the end of the year. But of course, not only catch me at the A to Z Show, definitely go check out Bailey. Bailey, thanks for being on here. Truly
Thank you guys so much for
Thanks so
having
much,
me. That
Bailey.
was awesome, guys.
Look forward to having you on. Whenever Taika Waititi comes out with Thor Ragnarok 2, we'll definitely have you on and
I'll
teach
be
you
there
the
day one, man. I'll be there day one. I want to support that.
But yeah, you could also check me out on The Intercut.
Yes, you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And also, make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well, right here on YouTube at youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can watch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest happenings in the entertainment industry for you. You can also find new episodes of Intercut every Tuesday? We'll see. We're trying to get on that schedule. Also, like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, all of them at IntercutPod, to get updates throughout the week from me, from Art, from Bailey too. We'll be retweeting out some of his stuff, so make sure you're following us there. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, hey Westworld, Coco did that you can only live as long as your remembered thing first. What are you doing?
That's true.